If your foundation melts off of your nose throughout the day, you might want to follow these tips. Having combination skin myself, this is an issue I've struggled with, and I know I'm not the only one. I've found a few simple tricks that really work to make foundation to stick to your nose or any oily areas, be it your forehead or chin, all day long. Above all, please subscribe to the channel to continue publishing content.
First step is to take care of that skin on your nose. To keep that skin looking healthy and smooth, you can either exfoliate twice a week or even better, use a resurfacing pad like this one from Elmis. This comes as individual pads, so all you do is pick one to exfoliate your nose. You gently rub around your nose to remove all that gunk, dirt, and all the dry skin that's sitting on the top layer of your skin. A good drugstore alternative is the Thayer's blemish clearing pads. I'm going to link both these in the description box right below this video. Now if you turn to your side, you will see that the most protruding part of your face is your nose, which means the sun is constantly hitting your nose, creating sun damage. So you definitely need a sunscreen, and the one that I use is Elta MD. This is the only one that I use. This is my favorite. So I'm going to apply it not just on my nose but all over my face, and make sure to apply a generous amount. Now comes the makeup part, and I always start with a primer. I'm going to be using the Cover FX gripping primer today, but I'm not going to use it on my nose. Some people like to use an eyeshadow primer on the nose. I try to avoid that as well, for the simple reason that the skin on your nose is smoother than the other parts of your face. Now if you're going to apply anything creamy on your nose, even if it's a gripping primer or an eyeshadow primer, and then you apply a foundation over it, the chances of it slipping off is high. So I'm going to be showing you a theater trick as I mentioned earlier, but before that, let's apply the foundation all over the face excluding the nose. For foundation, I'm going to be using the Milani Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 foundation, and this is in the shade 6, which is sand beige, and to apply it I'm just going to be using a damp sponge. This has to be one of my favorite drugstore foundations. It gives you full coverage and it looks flawless, and it lasts throughout the day. While you're at it, don't forget to bring it all the way down to your neck. Unless you can very closely match your foundation shade to your neck shade, then you can avoid it if you don't have any uneven skin tone or discoloration on your neck, but otherwise I would recommend bringing it down to your neck. Now let's tackle the nose. I'm taking a dry sponge, and here's the magic trick. I'm using some hairspray. This is the Garnier 24-hour strong hold hairspray, and here's the do's and don'ts. Spray it directly on the sponge and not on your skin, and then very lightly stamp this on your nose. In fact, in theater makeup, sometimes they use this all over the face. I would not recommend it because the chemicals used in hairspray are completely different from what they use in face sprays. You see how sticky that sponge is? That's exactly what it did to your nose. It creates that very sticky surface, so whatever you apply over that will stay put and it's not going to move. Now for the foundation itself, I'm going to be using the same sponge that I used all over my face, and there's some residue left on the sponge. Now that's what I'm going to be using on my nose without adding any extra product to the sponge. Because remember, more product, more chances of it lifting or moving. So all you need is minimal just to match up your nose with the rest of your face. And by stamping it in, you're not moving anything underneath, so you're just placing it on top of that hairspray, so it's going to adhere immediately. I'm going to let this settle down while I use some concealer on the rest of the face, and the one that I'm going to be using is the Milani concealer in the shade 145. I'm using it to conceal my dark circles and some dark patches around my mouth, and again using the same sponge that I used for the foundation, I'm going to blend everything out. Before this concealer starts to crease, I'm going to lightly set it with some loose powder. The one that I'll be using is the Bare Minerals Mineral Veil. First I'm going to set in areas where I use the concealer to prevent it from creasing, and then using a large powder brush, I'm going to set the rest of the face very lightly, but I'm going to avoid using it on my nose. Before I use the powder on my nose, I'm going to seal it one more time with the hairspray. Again, using a very light amount, I'm going to stamp it on my nose, and that is going to completely lock that foundation. It's going to seal the deal and it will not allow that foundation to move or lift or dry up. And now you can continue on with your regular makeup. So I'm going to be using some powder to set my nose as well. Now instead of a hairspray, can you do the same with a setting spray? Yes, of course. But if you have extremely oily skin or that foundation never stays put on your nose, no matter which setting spray you use, it's not going to keep it in place. A hairspray, on the other hand, is the strongest. It'll hold it in place like no other. To add some structure and definition, I'm going to be using the One Size by Patrick Starr Made for Shade Bronze and Sculpt Trio palette. This is in the shade medium dark, and you can sculpt your nose as usual. Nothing's going to move now. Everything is set and sealed. What I'm showing you today is an age-old formula. In the past, there were no setting sprays, so people used hairsprays as setting sprays. But we now have setting sprays, and the chemical consistency in setting sprays is completely different from what is in hairsprays. So never use a hairspray directly on your face as a setting spray. Off camera, I'm going to finish the rest of my face. I'm just going to add some mascara and a light lipstick. And now to set the entire face, I'm going to be using the Super Setter by Benefit Cosmetics. This is a face setting spray. That's pretty much it, my friends. And now, no matter how much you try to move that foundation on your nose, it's not going to move, it's not going to lift, and it's not going to
if you are wanting to pick up this one, you can use the coupon code JOY. That will get you 25% off Drought Cosmetics. But we've got all of those primers set in place now. We're going to go ahead and apply our foundation. I'm using the Urban Decay All Nighter foundation. I did a recent review on this one for oily skin, so if you want to see that entire video, click the link in the description bar below, or I'll link it on the screen as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and apply this how I would apply my foundation normally. I'm going to apply it to the rest of my face, sort of, you know, the bulk amount of the product, and then when I come back to my nose at the end, it's going to ensure that I only apply a very thin layer of product onto my nose. Obviously, when you think about it, if you've got really thick layers of product, then the makeup's more likely to slip and slide everywhere. If you wait until the end of your foundation application when, you know, sort of most of the product's gone from your brush and you apply it then it's going to last a lot longer. Because that MAC paint pot's got so much pigment in it already, like it already looks like I've got foundation on my nose, like it's concealed the redness. So yeah, if you do get heaps of redness anywhere else on your face, it's a great little tool to use to try and cover that up. And now that my face is covered, I'm going to go ahead and apply the foundation to my nose, just using stippling motions. Don't rub or wipe that eye primer around. You really want to stipple over it because you don't want to move it out of place. So just stipple over top of that first product. And yeah, just cover up anything that you might have missed, and it's also to help blend your foundation color into your nose, obviously. Okay, moving on to concealer now. If you have used a foundation that has particularly lower coverage, or you know, you like to have a little bit more extra coverage on your nose, then you can go in and use a concealer. So I'm going to use the Too Faced Born This Way concealer, and I'm going to pop a little bit of concealer sort of just down my nose and on the sides here, and also around the flares again where I get a little bit of redness. Now, the key here again, much with the foundation and all the other products, don't apply too much concealer because yeah, it'll just build up, you'll get thick layers of product and then it won't sit well during the day. I'm going to go in and use this brush again just to sort of blend that in. You can use whatever you want, a beauty blender, a sponge, or a brush will work fine, or even your fingertips will work fine as well. But yeah, just make sure all of that concealer is set down. Moving on to powdering the face now, I would recommend using a damp beauty blender sponge to apply your powder if you've got oily skin particularly, and also if you find that your makeup doesn't last all day long. This pushes the products down into the pores really deep so that they, you know, they stay in place and they're not sort of just sitting on the top layer of the skin. So I'm taking this Kat Von D powder, this is the new Locket powder. I'm picking up the powder on the sponge and then I'm just going to really sort of firmly but gently at the same time, if that makes sense, press that powder over the nose area and kind of like wriggle it sort of to push those products really deeply in. You get a lot of creasing and melting of makeup around the flares of your nose as well. This will help with that too. Just make sure that you do use a translucent powder because otherwise you're gonna look crazy. So yeah, translucent powders for the win. I really like this Kat Von D one. I really like the Laura Mercier translucent one. I really like the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores one. If you haven't seen my other oily skin videos or videos about how to keep your foundation in place, I'll link them all down below. I go through a lot more products, you know, like recommendations and things in those videos. And then once your nose is powdered, just go ahead and powder the rest of your face as you normally would, because obviously no And then finally, to seal everything in place, go back in with the same setting spray that you used earlier. Please make sure that this is a alcohol-based setting spray. Don't use anything dewy finish or, you know, glowy or, you know, anything like that. It needs to be a straight up hardcore setting spray that's going to keep your makeup in place. So yeah, I finished by applying this over the rest of my face, and then you are done. Obviously you would apply the rest of your makeup normally, but I'm not going to go through that in this video because it's specifically about keeping makeup on your nose. So that is all of my tips for keeping your makeup on your nose all day long. I hope you guys enjoyed this little hack video. Please let me know any other specific concerns that you're having with your oily skin or with keeping your makeup in place. I've got a bunch of foundation sort of do's and don'ts and, you know, foundation tip videos coming up soon as well. But yeah, let me know in the comment section what you want